a rivalry is kind of a competition, like a fierce competition, oftentimes between two schools in the United States. And I think of a showdown as a competition. And so all of you, I'm hoping, will help us with this competition today. So the way that it's going to work is each of our schools is going to talk about their school for 10 minutes. And their job is to convince you that they have the best school. And after they present, we're going to have 5 minutes of questions. And I want you to ask as many questions as you can to get as much information as you can from the speakers. And then we'll go to the next school. And at the end, we're going to call upon you to vote and choose our best school. And we are streaming it to all of the other American corners, like around Kyrgyzstan. And so for our viewers who are in Osh and Jalalabad and Kant and all of our other American corners, and we also want you to send us questions and to vote when it comes to the end. So are you guys ready? Great. So we have 3 schools who are here today. I'm going to introduce our speakers and then we'll get started. So joining us today from Boston College, we have Patrick and Sarah Healy. Can we give them a warm round of applause? Next up, representing the University of Virginia, we have Veronica Elkins. Give her a big round of applause. And finally, from the University of Washington, we have Taylor Wilson, and another big round of applause. Patrick, Sarah, and Veronica all work at the U.S. Embassy with me, and Taylor is a Fulbright teacher's ETA, English teaching assistant, who's working here in Kyrgyzstan to help teach English. And so we're going to do this. This is really just meant to be fun, to learn about university life in the United States. Once we're done with this program, we'll have a separate program afterwards with Bermet Biali Kizu, who's from Education USA. And she'll be here to give a presentation about how you prepare to study in the United States and the logistics, kind of the practical steps that you would want to take, what the process is like. And so if you have questions about how to apply to a school or what you need to do, she'll be here to do a presentation and answer those kind of practical questions. And that presentation will start at 4:30. Sound good? All right. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to our first school, the University of Virginia, and we are going to give Veronica 10 minutes to convince us that the University of Virginia is the best school in the United States.
Woo! All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming here today. I'm really excited to talk to you about my school, the University of Virginia. So we're gathered today to answer a very important and what seems like a very difficult question. What is the best university in the United States of America? Now, it might seem like that's a difficult question to answer because there's so many schools, so many great schools, but in fact, it's a very easy answer. The best school in the United States is my school, the University of Virginia. And so today, I'm going to tell you why I think my school, the University of Virginia, is the best school. So there are 3 simple reasons why the University of Virginia is the best school in the United States. First of all, it has a rich history and unique cultural traditions. So great history at the University of Virginia. It has excellent educational opportunities. It's one of the best academic schools in the United States of America. And finally, and I think most importantly, the student life at the University of Virginia is excellent. It's a very fun place to go to school. It's a great place to live. So a bit more about the history. While there are many fine schools represented here today, Boston College is a great school, University of Washington is a great school. My school is the oldest of the schools here today. It was the first one here established. It's also the only school, both here represented and anywhere in the United States, that was created by a US president. The University of Virginia was created by the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. Again, only school to be created by a US president. I think that's pretty cool. And so because at the University of Virginia, we're so proud of our history, we have lots of unique traditions as well. Here in this picture, it's a picture of the lawn. The lawn is the central part of the University of Virginia, which is the oldest part of the university. It's originally where students, way back in the 19th century, when it was first created, where they studied and lived. And students, the best students at the university, can still live on the lawn. Also, and this is kind of unique, you may be familiar with the terms freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. You've heard these terms before, maybe. It's normally what we call the years in university. At the University of Virginia, we don't like these terms. We use first year, second year, third year, fourth year. Why? Well, it's all because of our founder, Thomas Jefferson. He thought that learning was a lifelong tradition, so he didn't like that a fourth year student would be called a senior. It made it seem like learning was done, no more learning. He thought learning continued forever, and so we use those terms still today. Okay, as I said, it's a great academic school. One of the things that makes it great is it's a public university. In the United States, there are both public and private universities. Public schools receive funding from the government, so they're much more affordable. You may have heard that education, higher education in the United States can be very expensive, and it's true, but public schools, like the University of Virginia, are a bit more affordable, so they're easier to go to. While I was at the University of Virginia, I had wonderful professors. Something else that I loved were the libraries. The University of Virginia has 12 different libraries that you can study at. This picture here is one of our most beautiful libraries. It's a very old and historic library, but the one that I spent the most time at when I was in school was one that was open 24/7. If you don't know this phrase 24/7, that means it's open all the time, all day, every day. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, you haven't finished your paper yet, you can go to the library. And I'm afraid that's often what I did. Okay, and finally, student life. The University of Virginia values self-governance. What does self-governance mean? That means that the students themselves have a lot of responsibility for deciding how the school is run. So there's an honor council, there's a judiciary council, there's a student council. All these councils make very important decisions about how the university is run. So as a student at the university, you have a lot of say, you have a lot of power in what your life looks like. It's also a great place to do activities outside of class. So you go to university to study law, to study medicine, whatever you're studying, but outside of class, it's fun to do other things. And the University of Virginia has over 800 different clubs. You can do anything from basketball to tennis, lots of sports. I played ultimate frisbee in college. There are also lots of singing groups. You've heard of a cappella groups? Okay. Oh no! And that's my time. But anyways, the University of Virginia is the best school.
Fantastic job, Veronica, and almost exactly on time at 10 minutes. And now for our lightning question round, for a little inspiration. Oh, you didn't get to do your song.
It's all right.
Okay, afterwards, everybody needs to ask Veronica to sing her school song. Okay, 5-minute lightning question round, some inspiration on the screen. Any questions from the folks here in the room or our viewers out in Kyrgyzstan? Yes, sir.
Is it possible to study there for free?
Yes, so the University of Virginia, like many schools in the United States, have scholarships. Scholarships is when your education is paid for. These are usually very competitive. You have to be one of the best students to get a scholarship.
All right, next question.
Yeah, so later, our colleague Bermet will have more specific information about applying to schools in the United States, but a great place to start if you're interested in a specific school is to go on their website. So the University of Virginia website has lots of information specifically for international students about how to apply.
Next question. Great.
So that can depend. As I said, it's a public school, so there's a different price for students that live in the state of Virginia, like me, and students that live outside. When I was there, 1 year for in-state student was about $30,000 US. So it's still quite expensive, so it's good to get scholarships, financial aid.
Great. Next question. Does this university give scholarships for master's degrees?
Yeah, so again, there are scholarships both for master's degrees and often as well for doctorate degrees. So PhDs are often fully funded. Yeah, so I don't know specifically about scholarship opportunities, but in terms of medicine, the University of Virginia has a great medical system, medical school. There's a hospital that's affiliated with it. So if you go there as a student, you'll have a chance to work in the hospital and get some experience at the hospital while you were studying.
Next question. Great.
Okay.
Our teacher, Madam Samatana, and she taught us
it shows all the pictures of this Virginia University.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You did my work for me.
And I would say we talked about University of Virginia and our class, auditory, and founded by Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, we learned about his biography.
Great.
That's wonderful. As you see, we're very proud of our history, so I'm glad to know it's being taught here in Kyrgyzstan.
Next question. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. It's really helpful. And my question is, which level of GPA is required to go to the master's degree?
The question is, like, what is the level of GPA that is required to study at the University of Virginia?
So to my knowledge, there's no hard requirement. In general, when you apply to university in the United States, they'll look at a lot of different factors. So they'll look at your GPA. They'll also look at essays and letters of recommendation. I will say the University of Virginia, it's a great school, so it is a bit competitive. So generally GPAs of people that go there will be higher.
Great. Any more questions? We still have a couple minutes. How about if you could change one thing about the school, what would it be?
That's a hard question. So are you familiar with the idea of sororities and fraternities? It's very unique to America, but it's basically these big clubs that people join. And at University of Virginia, they're very popular. It was a club I didn't really like. So if I could change it, there'd be fewer of those clubs.
Is that our time? Oh, we have a question. Okay, so the question. I think both of those questions will be fantastic questions for our Education USA advisor who will be joining us at 4:30. So we'll hang on to those and we'll make sure that we ask them of Bermet when she comes. All right.
Yeah.
Another round of applause for Veronica.
Thank you all.
All right. Next up, the University of Washington. We're going to move from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States, a little closer to home for me, and we're going to hear all about the University of Washington. Can we give a warm round of applause to Taylor Wilson?
All right, hello. My name is Taylor again. I'm here to represent the University of Washington. As you guys know now, it's on the west coast of the US, so I think it offers maybe a different view of the US, kind of different kind of culture. So I went to the University of Washington as a grad student, so I can talk a little bit more about their master's programs and their PhD programs. But I know that for undergrads, they offer a lot of different majors, a lot of specialties. So you have a lot of choices, and you can explore many different academic interests when you're there. For example, they offer some really interesting classes like the geography of food and eating. So if you're interested in other countries, but also the food of other countries, this could be an interesting class for you. They also offer classes on horror films, so kind of unique. And they offer some unique STEM classes, like STEM in the ancient world. Something else interesting about the University of Washington is, like the University of Virginia, they're a public university. So that's really good because you get more opportunities for funding, for money. And they are ranked number 2 among public universities in the US. So they have a pretty good reputation. So speaking of scholarships, at the University of Washington, about 50% of students get a scholarship. So there's a really good chance that you don't have to pay for the whole cost of tuition. And we all know how expensive that is, so I think that's a really important reason why I chose them. And at the University of Washington, they have over 8,000 international students. So seeing as if you guys were to apply, you would be considered international students, it's good to know that there's already a good framework at the University of Washington to support you. Right, so one of the big kind of superficial things that attracted me to this campus was the buildings, and in particular, an area called Red Square. So in Red Square, every spring, they have these cherry blossom trees that bloom. They look like that. They're pink, they're very pretty. It's really nice to walk around there in the summer and in the spring. It's kind of bad for allergies, but I think it's worth it. Also, if any of you like Harry Potter or you like Hogwarts, I think our library looks a lot like something out of Hogwarts. It's called Suzalu. It has this room. It's called a reading room. It's a room where you can go and study, and it's always silent. So there are no distractions. In the library, there are over 2 million books. So you can find literally any information in the world. I can't imagine that you would ever be able to read 2 million books. But if you're looking for something, you can probably find it there. Also, the library is located in the center of campus. So it's really convenient whenever you're going in between classes, if you want to stop in, or if you have a break. So another really great thing about the University of Washington is the location. It's located in Seattle, which is the biggest city in the state of Washington. It's one of my favorite cities in the US. It's really unique. This is a picture of the skyline. As you can see, there are several skyscrapers. Also, there's a really nice building called the Space Needle. Has anyone ever heard of the Space Needle? Yeah? Good. It's the really pointy building that looks kind of weird. It looks like it's something out of the future, but it's really nice. It was made for the World's Trade Fair, I think, one year, but you can go up to the top of it. You take an elevator. There's a man in the elevator who will sing a sea shanty for you if you want, and you can go to the top and you can look out, and you get a really nice view of the city and of the mountain that is by Seattle. I don't know if you can see, there's a mountain next to it. It's called Mount Rainier. So, Seattle, as I said, is in Washington. Just so you guys can visualize this a little bit better, Washington is in the northwest of the United States. It's right below Canada, and it's above Oregon and California. And Washington, or Seattle, the city, is located right there where the big red circle is. I like Seattle a lot, mainly because it has a really nice diversity of cultures. This is a picture of Chinatown. I recommend going there. Also, there's really good nature, like Mount Rainier. And I think the nature looks really unique in the US because it's really emblematic of the Pacific Northwest, where they have a lot of pine trees and mountains. And there are a lot of good companies there. So that's all.
All right. And for our lightning, meaning fast, question round for Taylor. So questions about the University of Washington. Yes, sir.
What's the university's admission requirements? And also the question is, can I get earned if I apply for spring semester or winter semester?
So I think, like Veronica said, a lot of US universities don't have very specific grade requirements. They look at you, they say holistically, so they look at you as a person. They think, how do you study? What interests do you have? What can you bring to the university? That said, you usually have to take an SAT test, write some essays about yourself, and show transcripts or grades from your school. And what?
What kind of scores are required on the SAT, if you know?
I don't know. I didn't go to undergrad there. I think usually they're pretty competitive, but maybe not the most competitive. So I would say in the top 75% or so.
And Taylor, that's probably something you could find on their website, right?
Yes, they have a really good admissions part of their website.
Great. All right, second question.
I think they usually reserve financial aid for when you apply in the fall. So you have to apply in the fall usually, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so they do offer some, but you really need to go to their website. They have a section on financial aid, and then you can find scholarships and ones that are targeted towards international students.
Yes.
Yes, they do. I actually studied for free there for my master's. They paid me, so that was great. I could afford. Yes. Usually they will have you teach a class at the university. So then, what? Like practice.
All right. Yes, sir. How much does an education cost?
Without scholarship, I'm not for sure. It's probably very expensive, maybe around $40,000. Yes, I did. I had a scholarship for the first year, and for the second year, I was an instructor, so I didn't have to pay.
All right. Yes. In the back.
From what?
Which country do students usually come to the University of Washington to
Okay.
study as an international student?
I know that they have a lot of international students from Japan and China because they are very close, technically, to Asia. So it's a shorter flight, I think, for students from Japan or China to come to the US because they don't have to go all the way through Europe. They can fly to the west, I think, to the east to get to the US.
So do people find employment in their the area of their studies after they graduate?
Yeah, usually they do. I think it helps because Seattle is a booming city. The economy is really good. So there are a lot of companies moving there and a lot of new companies. So there's a big diversity, and you can usually find a job that's based on your specialty. Can you repeat? Mm-hmm.
An elementary level of, so is it possible to study at the University of Washington with an elementary level of English?
I think there are English requirements, but I do know that they offer English as a second language support classes for some of their students. So you need to have at least a certain level to study there, but it doesn't need to be perfect. They offer continuing education classes for example, for writing in English, if it's not your native language, and for academic language in English.
So, Taylor, we have a question from one of our online viewers who says, I am a mentor to a group of girls in STEM. Oops, hang on for 1 second. So my question is whether, it's asking which university is the best for this.
Well, obviously. Actually, the University of Washington does have a really good STEM program. That wasn't very interesting to me because I didn't study STEM, but they are known for having a really good computer science department, mainly because companies like Microsoft and Amazon are located there, so they need a lot of programmers. So they do actually have a really good computer science department and a really good medical school.
Great. So I think our minutes is up. We'll have one more question.
I think so. I think they've expanded a lot of their requirements because of COVID and the pandemic. So they offer many more online options for entry requirements and also for class offerings.
It's a great question. All right, can we give a big round of applause to Taylor?
Thank you.
All right. And our next school, they doubled up and brought 2 people to present on Boston College. So let's welcome Patrick and Sarah.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. And Veronica and Taylor, thank you so much for breaking the ice and going first. I know that's a challenge.
All for coming here today. My name's Patrick. I'm the logistics officer at the U.S. Embassy.
My name's Sarah. I work in it's called the Community Liaison Office at the Embassy. And we are alumni of Boston College, which is in the state of Massachusetts, just outside the great city of Boston. If you've learned about the American Revolution, you are familiar with Boston. I graduated in 2007 with a degree in elementary education, and then I stayed on another year and did my master's degree in curriculum and instruction.
And I graduated in 2007. I studied political science and international relations. And fun fact, the head of the political science department at Boston College, he actually toured through Kyrgyzstan in the 1980s. He's the one who really put in my mind that this was a country that I wanted to come to as part of my tour. And now I'm here. So one of the primary reasons why Boston College is the best school is that your dreams do come true. So that's fantastic. But a lot of really good questions that you've all had today. And so Sarah and I are here to clearly explain why Boston College is the best school in the United States.
So there are a lot of things you think about when you want to study in the United States. Life in the dorms, which is really fun. The campus life in general, extracurricular activities, and of course, the academic programs. So BC is amazing. They have great, beautiful dorms where you can live with your friends. They have a really beautiful campus and just a great daily energy on the campus. They have awesome extracurricular activities. You can see some pictures of me. I was in the marching band. That's me in college. I was in the color guard. So if you ever see the girls with the flags, that was me. And during the game, we'd dance to all the little songs. And next time you watch an American football game, definitely take a look. And of course the academics. Boston College has 4 major academic schools and several more graduate schools that are all among the top, 15 to 20 ranked in the country in their areas.
And so while academics is certainly an important part of your study in the United States, you can tell that Sarah was probably the more serious student than I was. I was a little more concerned with some of the extracurricular activities that were going on. And like Veronica, I also played ultimate frisbee. I also played basketball. I played football. And don't really show it, I also played rugby. One of the best parts, I know, it's hard to believe, But it's one of the best parts about studying in an American school is that the chance to interact with your peers. Extracurricular activities are a great opportunity to get out and to know certain people. And one of the coolest parts about Boston College is that we have international students from almost 130 countries that are studying either at the undergraduate or at the graduate level. One of my best friends, my freshman year roommate, was an immigrant from Peru. He's now the assistant district attorney for the city of New York. What a great opportunity to come and learn about American education, learn about opportunities, and apply that to your future career.
So when you think about studying in the United States, you have a lot of decisions to make because the United States is so big and so diverse and every city is different. So you might want to think about, do I want to study in a big city, in a downtown type campus? Do I want a suburban campus, kind of between the city and the country? Or do I want a more rural campus where all of my college experience will kind of just be in the university itself? Boston College is amazing. It's a suburban campus, but you can take public transportation and you can be in an amazing world-class city of Boston in about 15 to 20 minutes and see history, have great restaurants, shopping, all the amazing things that you get in a big city, but with a suburban, beautiful in the fall campus. Taylor talked about the beautiful springtime. Boston is known for its fall.
So the city of Boston itself is the city of colleges. Not only is Boston College, again, the best school in America located there, but we also have Harvard, MIT, Boston University, Northeastern, Tufts, and so on and so forth. There are tens of thousands of college students from all around the world in the city of Boston studying, learning, and getting to know each other. Now, Sarah already mentioned that Boston is located in the state of Massachusetts. Who knows where in the US Massachusetts is located? Anyone want to take a guess? Yeah, so the other reason why BC is the best is that we brought swag to give out. So you get your own pennant.
So another thing about Boston College you might want to know, Washington and Virginia are public schools. Boston College is a private school. There are many schools in the United States that are...
Oh, well, we'll go to the very end here.
It's a private school, but they give out lots of scholarships. I know that question has come up a lot. It's a medium-sized school, not super big or super small. It has a core curriculum and classes in your major and minor, different schools, and you have a lot of opportunity to do internships, community service, and work with the Career Center to be able to find stuff at the end. And sports are awesome at Boston College. They're so much fun. Look at all the times they beat the University of Virginia. Cool.
All right.
All right, so for our final lightning round of questions, what questions do we have for our Boston College representatives? Yes.
Why are you choosing this Boston College?
Why did you choose Boston College?
For me, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I have taught for most of my career. And they had a school of education where I knew I would be able to start student teaching experiences right away and start working with students and practicing to be a full-time teacher right away. Other universities in the United States for the same program would, you had to do 2 years of basic education classes, and then you had to reapply to the university to become a teacher. I got to go into their school of education right away. So for what I wanted to study, it was the best. And I visited the campus in the fall, and I just fell in love. Everything was orange and red, and I just couldn't imagine being anywhere else. It also looks like Hogwarts.
Yeah. And I wanted a strong liberal arts school, and I also wanted to study in Boston. One of the cool things of BC, that's our abbreviation, is it's not as large as UVA or as the University of Washington. We have about 9,000 undergraduate students and about 2,000, 2,500 or so graduate students. So it's a little bit more of an intimate feel if that's what you're looking for smaller classes and the ability to know different people.
Great question. Next question.
question is, what you noticed before going, which difference you noticed before going to Boston College and after?
Oh, how did Boston College change?
Yeah. So
How
we've
did it change us, or how did it change over the time we were there?
How changed you?
Oh.
yeah.
Well, I met this guy, and we got married, and now I'm here.
That's the most important thing. No, it opened.
Can you talk about
Yeah.
that?
Can I top that? No, I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to be beaten up at home. It gave me the opportunity to see the world. Part of the time that I was at Boston College, I had an opportunity to participate in a national exchange program. I went to the country of Italy to Rome to study. I met different people. I met different folks from different nationalities. And it just affords you the opportunity to expand your horizons. We use that kind of as a cliche in the United States of just kind of a little bit of a throwaway, but that's true of studying at any university in America. You get to understand who people are, where they're coming from, and that's just as important as your classroom activities.
Yeah, I also I grew up in a very small town in the middle of the country, and so I got to meet just all kinds of different people who had different life experiences than I did, and that obviously has served me well traveling the world now and getting to meet new people all the time. So yeah, it just broadened my view of the world and what was possible.
Next question.
Thank you for this opportunity. Can you repeat what specialties they teach there?
Can you repeat what specialties Boston College teaches?
So they have 4 main schools for undergraduate students. They have the College of Arts and Sciences, which is exactly what it sounds like, all the sciences, languages, political science, which is what he studied, economics, things like that. They have a school of nursing. They have a wonderful school to be able, and you get to train in the amazing Boston hospitals. I was in the School of Education, and then there's also a business school. And then at the graduate level, they have a law school. They have, in addition to the 4 main schools that have graduate schools, they also have a law school, a school of social work, a school of theology. It's a Catholic school. And they focus strongly on community service and things like that. So,
Yes, question in the back.
What profession did you choose, and can you give me advice for it about profession?
Right, so what profession did you choose?
Yeah. So I wound up being a diplomat, which kind of ties into my major of political science and international studies. I actually did not go into government right after graduation. I actually went into healthcare. I worked on the finance side for various hospitals. And after a while, I decided to switch gears and go back to my true roots, which is in political science and international relations. To that end, BC prepared me very well. Both my 2 best professors that I had there were both Russian and Central Asian experts. And so I feel at home coming out here.
you're next.
Final question.
You told a lot of reasons why Boston is the best university, but the most important reason, in your opinion, why we should apply to Boston?
I'll let you go first.
I think there is something there for everybody. It's a really welcoming community. So even though you may be coming from very far away, you will find a group of people in your dorm or in your classes or they have so many extracurricular activities that everybody finds their group of people. I still talk to my friends from college all the time. I have WhatsApp groups with them, and actually in the picture of the sports with the 3 guys, those are some of my really good friends. I got that picture from a newspaper when they had been in, so you just find your core group of people, and for us, they came to our wedding, we've gone to their weddings, we've held their babies, and we obviously still love it and still talk about it.
My second question, both of you, the most useful lesson which you learned in university?
The most useful lesson I learned was how to write a research paper in 1 page or less. As you which is going to shock and horrify our master's degree people over here. Mainly because over attention span, you have to figure out how to apply the most useful information right up front. And it is harder to, it's almost impossible to write that much information into one particular page. The person who taught me that, one of our professors, actually worked for the State Department for a long time. And she was stressing continuously, you need to figure out how to be concise, how to make sure your audience cares about what you're talking about and what you're arguing about. So that was the most useful exercise that I actually did, of how to try to boil everything down into one page.
I think mine was just for the career I chose of elementary education would be, I took a class on children's literature, and it just really opened up how I teach and how I bring in really good books into the classroom and how I share reading with the kids. So.
All right.
Last question from our online.
All right.
Question from our online participants, of course.
Yeah, how many GPA required for master's program?
Okay, do we know what the GPA requirements are for
I
a master's program?
I think we're going to echo all of the other answers on that, and it's not just your GPA, it's your test scores, your extracurriculars that you did as an undergraduate student. They look at the whole person and why you want to study there and what you plan to do with that graduate degree. That will help support your case for being admitted.
All right. Can we give a round of applause to Patrick and Sarah? All right. So we're going to give our online participants a little time to start registering their votes as to who the best schools are in the chat. But while they're doing that, I have a question, and all of you get to decide this very important question. Veronica, I think, was going to sing to us, but we called time. So the question is, should Veronica get the opportunity to display her school song before you vote? Everyone who wants to hear her do her school song, raise your hand. Okay, and anybody who thinks she shouldn't get the chance because her time was up, raise your hand. All right, Veronica, you're up.
So thank you all so much for the extra time. You may regret this decision because I will not be singing alone. I will be teaching all of you. So this is a chant that we like to do at sports games. So Sarah and Patrick talked about sports. My university actually also has really good sports teams. So after there's a big goal or a big touchdown in the game, we'll do this chant. Now, most of the words on the screen are nonsense words. They don't mean anything. So if you don't know what they mean, don't worry. But you can repeat after me and show your school pride for the University of Virginia. So I'll start and then you can go. Wahoo wah. Wahoo wah. Univ Virginia. Hoorah ray. Hoorah ray. Ray, ray, UVA. Congratulations, you are all now fans of the University of Virginia.
All right, so do we have votes coming in from our online audiences? Not yet, okay. Oh, as long as it's a question for everybody, and then we're going to vote, and we'll have some time afterwards to chat with the people who have come today as well. So let's take one final question for all of the panelists. Be thinking about your vote, which school you're going to vote for. If you're watching from Botkin, Jalalabad, Narin, Talas, start voting now. Your question, sir.
My question is, all university its custom, which famous person educated this university?
Great question. So the question is, First, this is a person who's interested in history and would like to know from these universities, who is a famous graduate from each of them? So, anybody have immediate answers?
So how many of you all are familiar with the position of Secretary of State? Does that ring a bell at all? Ultimately, that position is Veronica and my boss. It's the President of the United States' top diplomat. And John Kerry, who is President Barack Obama's second Secretary of State, is a graduate of Boston College Law School.
He also ran for president many years ago, so maybe you would remember him from them.
Yeah.
During his presidency, I was in Virginia and also in UMass. I visited it.
Yes, yeah. We know where you're from.
All right, Veronica, do you have a famous person from University of Virginia?
Yeah, so I have two examples. One is President Woodrow Wilson, who was president during World War I, went to the University of Virginia. And not technically a graduate, but one of the most famous American writers, Edgar Allan Poe, briefly went to the University of Virginia. He did not finish his degree, but he was successful nonetheless.
Taylor, any University of Washington graduates?
I know that there are plenty of famous people. The only person that I can think of right now is Ted Bundy, who was a bad person. Did Bill Gates go there? I think Bill Gates might have gone there. If not, his name and his wife's or ex-wife's name now is on all of the buildings because they donate a lot of money. So at the very least, you have that connection to Bill and Melinda Gates, which I think is pretty big.
Okay, I know we had one more person who really wanted to ask a question, so
About
prices.
Is price of education different for Americans and international students?
So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and take this one from the group, for the group. It depends upon the type of school that you're applying to. At a private school, they don't necessarily is that correct? They judge your price based on whether you're international or not. But if it's a state school, like a public school, where you are from makes a difference in the price. And so if you are an international student, you might pay a different price. If you don't live in that state, you pay a different price. So the best thing is to look that up on their website. And you can look for international student prices. Do you know for?
Well, I was going to say one thing I would encourage you all to consider, especially when you're talking about scholarships. Don't stop your scholarship search at a university. There are businesses, there are private foundations, there are tens of thousands of different scholarship opportunities in the United States that are outside the realm of what Boston College or UVA or the University of Washington may happen to offer. A lot of students will apply for different scholarships and have multiple scholarships to go to a particular school. So if you all are interested in studying in America, make sure you do look at all opportunities for financing that are available for you.
All right. So now it is the time to vote. And we'll save our practical questions. So we'll save the rest of the questions for afterwards, especially the ones about the logistics of how to apply or scholarships for the Education USA presentation that will happen at 4:30, so in 10 minutes. And if you have questions for the speakers, you can grab them afterwards. But we're going to go ahead and vote on which school you think is the best. So let's start with our first school. And if you think that the University of Virginia has won your heart and it is the best school, raise your hand. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Up high, if you want it like up high so we can see them. This is like a medium vote. Got an estimate? Keep them up. Keep them up. For Virginia. University of Virginia. Keep them up. All right. Igraham's going to keep a tally to the side of an estimate. All right. Next school, University of Washington. Raise those hands high if the University of Washington gets your vote. I think we got some people voting for 2 schools. 15. Ooh, this is close. All right, let's round it out with how many votes for Boston College?
Right down the pike.
Whoa, that was really close.
Yay.
Thank you all. We'll go ahead and take a break for 10 minutes so that you can